Hello and welcome to Quackalope. I am no, doing it wrong. Hello and welcome to Quackalope. My name is Jesse Samuel Anderson and I'm here to welcome you into, well, normally I'd say my studio, but I'm actually here today hijacking Board Game Co.'s studio, taking over his place, his camera equipment, and occasionally stealing some of his friends as well, because why not, really? And so I'm gonna speed up again because I just can't talk that slowly for that long. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and I'm here over here on Quackalope's channel because, well, he invited me here to run his giveaway. And before we get to the giveaway, we'll talk about that shortly, the video is going to be about 10 Kickstarters he's backed and my thoughts and opinions on them. Half of these I've backed, the other half I didn't. Basically, I just pulled up his account and found 10 interesting ones to play around with. Originally, I was going to pick 10 Kickstarters he shouldn't have backed, but then I realized he backs some diverse things that I'm just not interested in, and that would be too much work and energy to actually find out enough about it to properly and accurately criticize it. So, instead, I'm just going to pick 10 that I'm actually more interested in, my thoughts, my impressions, reasons I backed them, reasons I didn't back them, stuff like that along the way. But before we go ahead and do that, let's go ahead and run the giveaway. The giveaway on, well, this video over here, where he did, I did a right for you, wrong for you on After the Empire, and he sent 1,000+ people over there to go ahead and quack. And now we're going to go ahead and do the giveaway on, well, whoever's there. So let's go ahead and run it. I've got the video URL, we've filtered for quack, and I'm going to go ahead and pick a comment winner, who's going to be Kieran Berry. Came for the quack, I stayed for the content. Quack, Kieran, if you can go ahead and make sure to message Jesse or myself. I don't know Jesse's way to message, so if you can't get a hold of Jesse, just message me, alex@boardgameco.com, and I will go ahead and ensure that you are taken care of. Make sure to do so at some, I don't know his rules in terms of at what point, you know, he moves on to pick another winner. So just hope you get a hold of us. And I guess we'll go ahead and try to reply to your comments somewhere so you see this. But with that said, you know, congratulations, Kieran. And we're going to go ahead and jump into Middara, Unintentional Malum. Now this is going to be in order of oldest to newest. I went through his profile, just picked a bunch that looked interesting, and Middara is one that I really held off from initially. This is one that I went on in it later, but initially I held strong, and initially because the all-in price on this was $500, and that's before we even talk about some extras, but you're talking about $500 to go all in. Do you need to go all in? Absolutely you do not. You never need to go all in. Do I have this irrational desire to always go all in? Let's not talk about it. I'd rather not talk about it. But yes, the short version is yes. We will talk about in my channel. Go ahead, Board Game Co. I was going to say Board Game Co. YouTube Board Game Co. You can find my channel somewhere. But effectively, I plan on talking about Marvel United and why I went all in and why I absolutely should not have gone all in. I don't know if that video is going to be going up before or after this one. We'll find out together. But that said, the point is that $500 at that point, young as I was in my Kickstarter journey, I was actually scared off by $500, and I wasn't willing to go core pledge alone, and I wasn't willing to go $500, so I walked away. But then I kept finding myself pulled in, despite the fact that I don't have time for these experiences, despite the fact that I can't practically play all these games. And nonetheless, Middara has so many, first of all, the positive reviews off the chart. The art style is incredible. I mean, look at this art. The art just looks incredible. It's very different, very unique, pulls you in a way that other games don't. It manages to be totally different in any sense of the word, and it's encapsulating in the trilogy of content that this game has. Well rated, highly sought after, and in fact, I will, on my channel at some point, have a rambling unboxing of this pledge that I just got. So I finally got my core pledge. I'll be going over it shortly. But either here nor there, whatever, I'll be going over that. I'll be doing a rambling unboxing about Middara, covering the game. But until then, let's go ahead and jump straight back into the next one on the series over here, which is going to be Oathsworn. Oathsworn, by the way, I'd say timestamps down below, but I have no idea if he'll take the time to do it. Don't worry, if he doesn't, I'll make sure to go ahead and timestamp it and send them over to him. The guy's busy, I feel bad. You know, it's only so much you can do, so I'll make sure to find the timestamps and send them over. But Oathsworn, Into the Deepwood, a game that I actually played with Jesse, as well as with Shadowborn Games. I did a video a while ago about why I backed Oathsworn. You can find it on my channel, and that was before having played it. And after that, they reached out to me and they're like, hey, we'd love to do a little bit of a run through with you, which is, you know, great, because nothing better than spending a few $100s on a game and then playing it online and being less excited about it before it's even on the way. That's a risk you take when you play a game that you already paid for and is on the way. But fortunately, I'm not worried about it. I'm actually just as excited as I was before. The game is immersive in what it's doing. We didn't really get into the story-based content of the journey or all that. But that's okay, because that's actually not why I got the game to begin with. I got the game for the combat, for the powers, the abilities, the sequencing. And it has a fascinating gameplay aspect to it, in the sense that you're cycling cards around your player board. It takes a little bit to wrap your head around it, but effectively you have to cycle cards around your player board. Whenever you play a card of a certain power, it shifts and pivots them around, so the higher power cards that do more powerful abilities will sit there waiting until you can pivot back to yourself using either other cards or abilities in the game. So you have to manage your abilities in that sense. Additionally, it has a combat mechanism where you can go as high or as far as you want, but the problem is, the more misses you get, you're going to miss the entire attack, basically. So you have this choice to make of, well, I can definitely do a ton of damage, but I'll have to roll well, and it's either rolling or drawing cards. They have both mechanisms for whichever one you play, both are, statistically distributed and all that, but in case you didn't want, to be at the victim of too many low rolls or at the luck of too many high rolls, they do have a card deck that will average it out. For myself, I tend to be a dice person. I like the odds of fate and the fact that I can have a game where everything goes amazingly well, and also have games where I roll ones and ones and ones, but that's neither here nor there. Oathsworn manages to be unique in many aspects of the gameplay it brings to the table, and it seems to be almost a cross of Kingdom of Death Monster and Gloomhaven in what it's doing, and it does so well, at least based on the, granted, only one play I've had of it. But I'm looking forward to being able to dive into this, or I should be more specific, I'm looking forward to getting this and then not really diving into it because there's games on the shelf behind me that need to get played. From there we have Oath: Chronicles of Empire and Exile. This is one that I did not cover, unfortunately. This is one that I did not, not cover. This is one that I did not back. And this is because I'm intrigued by Oath, but back when this is on Kickstarter, Root had left my collection. Root is a game that is currently in my collection, but at the time back then, Root was gone. I had gotten rid of it, not because it wasn't great, but because it was a game that I found too crazy in how much it was doing that I loved it and got rid of it because we couldn't make it hit the table with our game group. Now, I've gotten it back since then, and I adore it, even though I did on Quackalope's, channel or whatnot, on my channel, but covering Quackalope's collection, I did say it's one of the worst games in his collection. That's because Root is a game that I genuinely do have many complaints about, and I like it despite those complaints. I think it's an amazing and unique experience despite those complaints, or perhaps because of those complaints, who really knows. But as far as Oath, is not actually Root, but between the art, the publisher, the designer, it was definitely something that, obviously if you liked one, you'd probably be intrigued by the other and vice versa. And so myself, I was interested in it, but yet I passed on it. Now, I am still interested in it, to be very clear. I'm very interested in it. But it was more about the fact that I was like, you know what? I just need to not back some games on Kickstarter. I need to have some self-control. I held off in it. Oath is going to be a game that remembers itself, I believe was the tagline. That you're going to go through things, you're going to have changes in the world, and when you pack it up, it kind of remembers the game state. It's not legacy, it's not campaign. It's just a game that has a degree of memory as to what's happened and the gameplay you are walking in on. So it's legacy adjacent, campaign adjacent, and yet a little bit of both, and yet really neither of the two. And it's starting to land, I believe. So we're going to see it hitting people's shelves shortly, and that means it's a game that I'll shortly be able to actually, see how the general public receives it and decide whether I want to get a copy for myself. From there we have Parks Nightfall. Now this is one, Parks and Parks Nightfall, as well as Memories. Parks Memories is going to be more of a memory game, and it's one that I don't really have an interest in it because of that. But Parks and Parks Nightfall, Parks is an amazing game. Now I did not back Parks Nightfall, but that's because I hadn't played Parks when Parks Nightfall was on Kickstarter. I only had the opportunity to play Parks later, and at that point I was like, well, of course I need to get Nightfall, because I haven't actually played Nightfall. I do have Nightfall now, but Parks is one of my favorite games. It is simultaneously a gateway experience that is accessible to many, and yet it is cutthroat and brutal and mean in what it's doing. I can genuinely play this with people who have never played games before, and they will have a reason to be interested in the game. But I could also play it with hardcore gamers, and we will tightly outmaneuver each other as we go here, flip the campfire tile, move there, block you here, go to this tile. It is intensely rewarding in both aspects of the game. So much fun, beautiful to look at, beautiful production values. I have not tried Nightfall yet. I don't know what it adds to the game yet, but I am absolutely interested. I need to get it to the table. Need is a relative term, but I would love to get it to the table. Parks is an excellent experience that it's one of those games that I want to recommend more and more. It is not for everyone, meaning I have found people who just didn't enjoy the experience, even though they are the minority. Nonetheless, when I recommend gateway games for the first time, I try to pick games that have like a 99% success rate. Parks is lower than that for me. It's maybe 90% success rate. Most people love it, not everyone, but nonetheless, it is one that is absolutely in my collection. I can easily recommend it to you, to whoever, and we'll see how it goes from there. I don't know what that means. Moving on to Wonderlands War. Wonderlands War by Druid City Games. This is one that I absolutely did back. Production starts in 7 to 10 days, so this is your last chance. This is April 22, so you probably are too late now, but theoretically, late. It's too late to lock in your pledges. It's too late to add to the game. Now, at this point, you'll either get it or you don't, assuming they actually stuck to that, 7 to 10 days. Very often, campaigns give you that extra leeway, so you can always check it out. Maybe you can still back it. But Wonderlands War is a game that I am absolutely not in the slightest bit certain that I will love, which is a weird thing to say when you're talking ecstatically about a game, but I'm not. I'm just not certain. This may well be a game that isn't right for me, that leaves my collection after the first play. And that's because it's combining things that in theory shouldn't be combined. In theory, they shouldn't work. Now, they might work, which is why who knows what happens. But it's combining area control and tight strategic decisions with the bag-building aspect of Quacks of Quedlinburg, the luck and the push-your-luck aspect of hoping you draw the right chip at the right time. Those mechanics can be an absolute recipe for disaster. It can be a game that is strategically tense until things just fall apart through no problem, no fault of your own. Or it could be something incredibly unique and innovative and interesting, and something that manages to stay in my collection because the combination of powers, of luck, of fun, of beautiful production values and art and all of that might make this an incredibly unique game that stays in my collection for a very long time. It could go either way. Who really knows? Who's to say? But I will absolutely play this one when it shows up. My group does love area control experiences. My group does love powers and abilities. Well, most of my group. There's that one guy who likes elegant systems without powers and abilities. Oh my gosh, I like both. But that said, Wonderlands War is one that I absolutely backed. Very intrigued by. Good decision, Jesse. Good decision on backing this one. I think he covered this one. I think he covered this one too. In fact, from these games, I don't know if he covered Middara. I don't recall. He may have done an unboxing. Oathsworn, I don't think he covered. Oath, I don't believe he covered, but I believe he will be covering. Parks, I believe there's been coverage. I'm not sure. Wonderlands War, there's been coverage. And Last Battle of Rum, there absolutely has been coverage. And I know that because the reason this game is here is because this was the first time I met Quackalope. This is, well, met's a relative term. This is the first time I heard of Quackalope, or more specifically of Quackalope, that, international channel that I didn't know, I'd never heard of, no offense to them. That's basically the way I put it. I covered Last Battle of Rum towards the first, I want to say like the first 5-6 months of me being on YouTube, and I went over the campaign, and I was scrolling through these people over here, and I was just going through, and I was like, oh, this channel over here, we got this Quackalope. I probably should have looked at this and seen this, but I didn't. But there's this channel called Quackalope, and that's the way I pronounced it, Quackalope. And these guys, and this guy looks French, I don't know what's up with him. And I was like, oh, hey, bunch of people over here, some I've heard of, some not so much, no offense to them. And that was the first time I ever really met Quackalope. That was the first time I ever heard of them, saw them. And from there, they started showing up everywhere, on every single campaign, every single page, from going from some random channel that I had never heard of to a channel that I couldn't stop seeing, and that led to me eventually including them in like my top 10 YouTubers because I just enjoyed their content. It was so welcoming, it was so beautifully done. I mean, this right here is likely to be the worst quality production you will ever see on Quackalope's channel because I have no standards. My standards are that I'm just going to sit there and talk to the camera. Quality is just not something I mean, quality is a relative term, but in any case, let's not get too self-depreciating over here. But this is going to be Last Battle of Rum. Last Battle of Rum is a game I have not had the opportunity to play. I believe Quackalope is actually in it as a character on a map tile somewhere. I don't know much about the game. I remember talking about the fact that I thought the production value looked excellent. I thought they did a good job on the campaign page. I was intrigued by the game. I was not confident it was a game for me because so many games come out and they're not all going to be a game for me. But it looks cool, looks beautiful, happy to try at some point, but I included this one here specifically because of the fact that, well, this is the first time I ever saw Quackalope. Moving on to Mind Management, another game that Quackalope definitely covered, and a game that I am absolutely intrigued by, but did not back this one at the time. I remember thinking that the price point seemed higher than I thought it should be for the content you are getting. Now, seeing the pledges people are getting, seeing the deluxeified all-in box with all the production value, it may well justify its cost. This could definitely fall into the category of one of those games that I is wrong about, meaning I try to be conservative in terms of my approach to the value. I try to say, if I'm confident something will hold its value, I say so, and if I'm not confident, I say so as well. And sometimes I've been wrong. Canvas is a notable time that I absolutely thought Canvas was not a game that would hold its value, and it absolutely did. And Mind Management, I have this sneaking suspicion I may be wrong about as well. We have to wait to see if it lands, but it's one that I wasn't not interested in the game, but I was not willing to back the Kickstarter because of the price point of, $64 or $89 for the deluxe pledge. I guess $66 US. $66 for the deluxe pledge of this game seemed too much for the game you are getting. But, again, could be wrong. This is a hidden movement game by Jay Cormier and Sen Fung Lim, so the talent behind the game is off the chart. The art by Matt Kint, I believe it's based on, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was like a webcomic or something. He has something. There's some, like, this whole Mind Management thing is not Here we go. Mind management wants to shape the world. No, I can't remember where it was, but there's definitely some background to the art of, or the artist of this game that I just was not familiar with when I covered the game, and apparently I'm still not that familiar. But you're gonna have different sealed pouches as you go through this, you know, hidden movement slash campaign slash unlocking game. It is one that I'm very intrigued by, one that I sort of regret not backing. It's one that I wanted to get this one, but I was trying to be too rational or too mindful of the benefit of backing on Kickstarter versus getting it later. But hey, every once in a while there is going to be one that I regret, one that I sit there after and say, you know what, the game does look intriguing. Moving on from my management, we have Fire Tower. Fire Tower was another one that Quackalope backed, and I remember this one because this is going to be one of the first videos of theirs I watched. I watched a review of the game when the campaign came out, the Rising Flames or whatnot. This is one that they covered. It has this aspect of fire slowly moving towards different sides of the board, of two players trying to control this forest fire, which thematically you're, trying to put out forest fires, but in the game itself you're not trying to put out anything. You're trying to shift the forest fire towards your opponent, which is not what you should be doing as a forest ranger or someone else. But ultimately they needed a theme, and this theme worked, and you're gonna have aspects such as wind and card play and all these facets you have to manage as you try to push and shove and manipulate the fire towards each other. It's an abstract game, one that I also debated backing. This is one that I totally debated backing and yet held off because abstract games for myself personally, some of them are incredible experiences that I absolutely want, and others end up being games that are good, but they don't hold to the abstract games that I love the most. Two games like Santorini, like Tak, like Yinch, like Tsar. And so Fire Tower is one that I'm interested in by, just as much as, you know, mind management, but it's one that I held off from, and one that I eventually need to try because, I like abstract experiences. The only question really is how much I like abstract experiences. Moving on to Massive Darkness 2 Hellscape, a game that Quackalope definitely covered because this is one. This is an incredible game. I don't know why I'm saying that. This is theoretically an incredible game. Massive Darkness was a great game that wasn't as streamlined as I would have liked compared to other games. It's a game that I had in my collection, and yet I played it infrequently because I'd rather play Zombicide for something a little lighter, and I'd rather play other dungeon crawls something a little heavier. Massive Darkness fell into this middle zone of giving you a lighter dungeon crawler and a heavier Zombicide kind of, but with enough flaws and aspects to it that while I liked it, while I wanted to own it, while I did play it, it's one that when they said Massive Darkness 2 is coming out and they are streamlining it and improving upon it and giving characters unique roles, feelings, so it's not just coming down to, you know, every character just having rolling dice and judging stats against that and whatnot. Because Massive Darkness, one of the flaws was that everything kind of just came down to, you know, okay, well, you have a modifier for +1 die, you have a modifier for -1 die, you have a modifier for +1 damage and -1 damage. It all came down to these minor modifiers that weren't exciting in what they were doing most of the time. Now, Massive Darkness 2 coming into play with each character, each role, having a distinguished and unique way that they play, something different about them, something about, you know, mini games that they have that distinguish them from other players. Maybe you like Push Your Luck, maybe you like deck building, maybe you like rondelles. Everyone has their own little mini game. Think Merchant's Cove, but on an even lighter level, combined with the dungeon crawling experience of actually going through this dungeon and trying to survive, trying to win, trying to defeat other people, other characters in this game. The artwork looks beautiful. The miniature production looks beautiful. This is a game that I am incredibly excited about. Not so much of the campaign. The campaign I will absolutely give a shot, because in fact Zombicide 2nd Edition that I backed because of the fact that I was going to play the game and I was not interested in the campaign. Interestingly enough, the campaign for me in Zombicide 2nd Edition, I am finding far more intriguing than the gameplay. So I'm actually going through the campaign in that one slowly but surely because I find that it adds a lot more to the Zombicide experience so far for myself. Now, Massive Darkness may find itself in the same spot. I may like the single-shot adventures, I may like the campaign play. As long as I like either of them, it will stay in my collection because the miniature production is incredible. The art is incredible. The gameplay of Massive Darkness was already good, and if they've taken that and made it better, then I am absolutely interested in this. This is another game that I went all in on, but this one I have a harder time regretting. It's not, regret's a relative term, but this one is one that this dragon, I had problems with the dragon, I still have problems with the dragon, but in terms of the absolute cute teddy bear, where's the little cute teddy bear? The cute teddy bear is somewhere, but there's tons of content for this game, tons of stretch goals, tons of everything, and I'm excited for it to finally arrive. And lastly, we have Bloodstone, a game that is not currently coming because this was a game that was cancelled, and yet I wanted to talk about this one because I think you should be excited for this one. And I think there were, 2,695 people who were excited for this one. Ultimately, this one didn't see the mass something that they thought they would, compared to Tidal Blades, which I had like, you know, $700,000. What was Tidal Blades? Was it? I think it was $700,000 or whatnot. And Bloodstone was trending towards maybe 400, maybe 500, best case scenario, for a title that was Kickstarter exclusive, for a title that brought such fun and accessible gameplay to the table that it absolutely should have been higher. Now, I did a full video talking about why I think it didn't do as well and why they did cancel it. They canceled it because, and then to be clear, I'm happy they canceled it. As someone who's a backer of the game, as someone who wants the game, I want the best possible experience. And if they canceled it so that they can come back with a cheaper price, so that they can come back with more characters, more content, anything that in any way changes the experience, then I am absolutely for that decision, because I want Bloodstone to be as good as it possibly can. And it already is a fun experience. I want it to be as good as it possibly can because I enjoy it already in its current state. I enjoy the cooperative scenarios. This is one that I covered with Jesse. We have gameplay of the two of us playing it. We have gameplay of rolling like rolling ridiculous amounts of the same number again and again and again. It is absolute insanity, but it's a fun dice chucking roll 'em up experience. It is random. If you don't like random in your games, Bloodstone is absolutely not for you. Stay away from it with a 10-foot pole. But if you don't mind the random, if you like the powers, the abilities, the rolling dice, and slapping each other with tons of damage as you move down from 150 health slowly but surely to one lone survivor in the arena, if you like the concept of arena challenges that mix up the experience every single time, swinging blades of death, weapon racks, all these different kinds of things in the game, then Bloodstone is absolutely a game you should be paying attention to. I'm looking forward to when this one comes out. I'm looking forward to whatever changes they bring to the table. But ultimately, Bloodstone is a game that I'm excited about, and I'm covering it despite the fact. I mean, here we go. Bloodstone is ridiculously good fun. Competitive as a murder sprawl amongst friends, and co-op as a tense, down-to-the-wire, unique adventure. This is giving me a serious run for my money. To be my favorite skirmish game when I just want to hurt someone. Get Bloodstone. And that's genuinely how I feel about it. It's a lot of fun. It is random, but past that, everything else. It's tactical too, don't get me wrong. It's not like it's random to the exclusion of tactics. It's random in addition to the tactical aspect. It's random in addition to the card play, the decisions, the who to attack, the alliances that form in an arena of people who are all getting slaughtered. It is a fun experience that I'm absolutely looking forward to the final copy of the game. And that's going to be it. That's going to be my 10 games that Jesse backed, and my thoughts and feelings about them, as well as, of course, the winner to the $500 giveaway. Congratulations again to Kieran Berry, just pulling up on the tab here that you can't see because I blocked it. But effectively, that's it. I am Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. This is a hostile takeover of Quackalope's channel. Who knows what happens next? I ultimately, I just want his Played It Once and Right For You, Wrong For You series, as well as Confirmation Bias. So I can get those 3 series from him. That's all. That's the only reason I'm really here. Until next time, wait, no, I do this right. Until then, remember to do the important thing, get out and play some games.